Go, Jason. Here we go, buddy. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Summer vibes, man. I put it in my name today. Summer vibes.
Summer vibes. You are a summer vibe kind of guy.
Loving it today.
Good morning. Speaking of summer vibes, let's keep it calm and cool and chill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Jason, raise your hand. This is Jason Anderson. Matt Kimball. We are with the Queen's greetings.
That's right.
We are here to talk about all things IT with more insights and strategy. IT Talk podcast. We got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about. Typically, we hit on all things related to IT, things, trends, technologies, rumors, gossip. Britney Spears. I don't know.
Ooh.
We talk about all things IT. I don't know how Britney ties into that. But today we have a few things we want to talk about. But before we get going, Jason, do you want to tell people that they should not take anything we say as investment advice?
We are not investment gurus. Anything we say should not be used in a financial decision-making process. And if you do, we'll disavow any knowledge of it.
Thank you. And before we start, please like and subscribe because that's important to us. Because the more followers we have, well, I really don't know what that means, but please like and subscribe.
Somebody knows.
Somebody knows. I've been told to say that. Hey, we got a few things we're going to talk about. First, we're going to hit on. You want to talk about FDEs, forward deployment engineers, and the fashion statement they are. What the hell does that mean, Jason?
So let me explain. So, one of the things that really got AI moving, particularly in the U.S. federal government, was years ago Palantir, right? Which I know people have a lot of opinions about Palantir, but the one thing they really did nail and get right was this idea of what they call the forward deployed engineer. And forward deployed engineering is kind of a new spin on an old thing. Companies for years, decades, have always said, hey, we're going to send pre-sales people out to help you get successful with our products. Nothing new there. But they had a very different model. Their model actually was much more like a consulting engagement. And the reason for that was because at the time, we're talking 10, 12 years ago when they started doing this, at the time, they really didn't have a product. So they were basically trying to figure out what to build. They were actually using it as a way to figure out what to build and how to help these market segments because they saw a huge opportunity in front of them. And here we are 12 years later, and the world looks clearly good for them, right, in terms of their stock price and so forth. But in the last 3 months, I started hearing it in the beginning of 2026 where everybody was kind of saying, we need something like that FDE thing, right? People who started to being in the know. Even though this program had been around for 10 years, now all of a sudden it's the coolest thing in the world. In fact, Microsoft just put $2.5 billion into something, their kind of FDE variant, right? Yep. $2.5 billion, right?
Yep.
And everybody's got one now. OpenAI's got one. AWS just announced it. Here's the thing I'm going to say. The term is a fashion statement. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say they're a bad idea. Actually, if a company's willing to give resources to help you figure out how to use your IT technology, okay, right?
Yeah.
But the point is that there is no standard definition. You might as well just say people, right?
Yep.
Because they're all different. And in fact, I wrote a piece yesterday that's on our website. I wrote a field note, right, which is a great thing for us, a new thing for us where we're allowed to rant and blog as much as we want. So Matt, you're a prolific user of the field notes and I'm semi-prolific. But basically, I've identified there's kind of ones that lean a little bit more towards consulting and there's ones that lean a little more towards product sales. And then there's some that are still kind of true to the spirit of what you see from the original Palantir idea, which is a little bit more free form, right?
Yep.
The point is not whether you should use an FDE program or not. The point is you need to go into these situations eyes wide open. And quite frankly, you need to manage them as if they're any other professional services engagement.
That's right.
This is not them sending a couple smart folks into your IT thing to figure out what you need to buy. It is more involved than that. These tend to last a month to 2 to 3 months in terms of an engagement. So they're fairly long running. So just treat them as such, right, is my advice. And also be very prepared as somebody who worked on the product management side and kind of ran similar private programs like this. Be very prepared for the marketing ask once things are successful. It's not just enough for them to make this investment and sell you a bunch of things. It's going to be, you're getting up on stage with us at event X to talk about how great we are, right? So there's a marketing cost that's going to require executive level and legal sponsorship and all this other stuff. There's a cost of your resources to be engaged on this so they can actually take this over once it is successful, assuming it is. And then the last piece of it is that there's a whole bunch of governance you need to do around this, because their goal is to sell more stuff, right? Their goal is not to just give away or even sell you consulting at a steeply different rate. So I'm just going to say it's a fashion topic for the summer, but that doesn't absolve you from kind of using the standard rigor you would use around this stuff. And I'm also going to say that you might even need to be a little bit more rigorous, right? Because these guys have an agenda. And I'm not saying it's not, a bad agenda. I'm just saying caveat emptor, right?
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because maybe ask is the wrong word. Maybe it's a kind of rhetorical question. But so when I started out my career, I started out doing something very similar, but it was for systems that were already installed. I can't name names, but it had to do with mainframes and big commercial printers. And as I evolved my career, I worked for a startup that got bought by another company, by Seagate. And my job was to go out into the big banks around Wall Street and the insurance companies all over the country. And when they were buying our network and infrastructure management utilities, I went out and I did months-long projects where I consulted, I understood what they were trying to achieve. I came back, we took our offering and we made, sometimes tailored, sometimes didn't. And I went and I installed and we optimized and we configured and we optimized again and we trained and we got them up and running. And doesn't that kind of sound like an FDE?
There's kind of two critical, yes. There's a critical difference between that and what the original design was, which I'll share. But there's also a critical difference between what you just described and what's happening now. Okay, and these are two important points. The first point was the original FDE program was actually a business lead and a technology lead, and these were very senior engineering and business folks who'd been there and done it before. They get dropped on the ground, and the point is that business lead typically was somebody from that ecosystem who actually really knew the lingo and could really talk to the customers. A lot of these programs are kind of like what you just described, which still lack that business context. A lot of these new kind of nouveau FDE things are just the engineering part, right? Mm-hmm. So they're not necessarily bringing the industry expertise and the industry fit and use case fit capability to you. So that's a critical difference, because Palantir really nailed that part in the old days. Now, the second piece of this is what you just described as months long. These used to be months long back in the day, these FDE engagements. Now they're weeks long. Even Palantir, now that they have a product, has been able to templatize these things and shrink it down from, say, 3 months to 5 weeks. So now it's a lot more of a focused effort with a lot more kind of canned templates built around a product that already exists. And like I said, Palantir does it and everybody's doing it, but it's much more of a kind of long-term get to know you sales process than it is a free-form, what's the right thing for your business discussion, right? So again, it is a little different, right?
I would not argue, but I would only counter with, you're kind of talking about what we did in the 90s. It's just, it's kind of like that FedEx commercial where some kid says, hey, why don't we use FedEx and save $50 on shipping costs? And some exec goes, why don't we use FedEx? And the kid's like, didn't I just say that?
Yes.
It's a new skin on the old wine. It's not
it sure is.
But
it sure is. And I just think, like I said, it's a lot of marketing. Yeah. Some of these programs are literally just rebrands of what they had before. And some of them are substantive. I've seen people say, we're going to reinvent this process. Or I've also seen vendors come to us and say, there's been at least one vendor in the SaaS world who said, we've always brought the industry expertise as part of our value proposition. They look at like this FDE thing is hysterical because they're like, well, we've been doing this for years and we don't need a program. We already have one. We don't need to call it this. So they're they're kind of pushing back against the fashion statement. But like I said, my comment on it is that there is no standard. They're all a little different. So when you sit down and think about bringing this on board to help you adopt AI, well, just kind of read the fine print. That's all.
Yeah, it's funny because Dell did in our analyst breakouts. I think they did even on the main stage. They talked a lot in Dell Tech World about their FDE partnerships with, I think it was EY, either EY or Deloitte, I forget. And Microsoft is with one of those as well. Which it's funny, when I first heard it, I'm like, oh, this is interesting because this sounds really familiar. And when I dug in, it's like, to what you're saying, the basic rhythm of, and this is true of where you hit any inflection point in technology and
Yes.
the business is struggling to adopt it. You have an investment made by the technology companies to help hold hands, understand needs, tailor programs or solutions to be deployed, and get people and build muscle memory within organizations to get them up and running. It's an age-old practice that to what you're saying, I think it's kind of a fashion statement that people are trying to kind of reignite, but there is really not a lot, when you kind of pull back all of the labels, it's the same playbook, which is a good playbook, which is, help people get up and running and get them, by the way, get them locked into your thing, right? Your solution, your technology. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Funny. I love it.
Everything old is new.
Everything that's old is new. All right. So listen.
Speaking of old.
Speaking of old. And new.
Man, what a lead into the Z series, dude.
Oh, I know. I did not even mean that timing. All right. So here's what's going on. IBM, they rang in the New York Stock Exchange bell the other day, and they introduced rack-mountable Z17 systems, in an attempt, not an attempt, but to kind of drive greater adoption of Z, and kind of really what I think is I don't even know it's about revenue, but introduce Z and IBM as part of the modern IT infrastructure landscape. So here's the setup. I'm going to spend a lot less on their announcement and more on kind of how I look at this from enterprise IT. I'm an enterprise IT, and I wrote about this like you. I wrote a field note about this following Broadcom's mainframe analyst summit. I'm an enterprise IT, and I can say this as somebody who was in enterprise IT and had a large, in my 2 gigs, had a large mainframe estate. Not every, but lots of large enterprises have mainframes that are running. Yep. And while not every bit of data sits on, while not every bit of mission critical data or business critical data sits on a mainframe, all of the data that sits on a mainframe is business critical, right? That is rich data that is critical to your AI future, right? And it's going to be for the foreseeable future, regardless of what Claude or Anthropic or others might say. That's all BS. The mainframe is here. It's here to stay, and embrace it, right? The reason I say that is companies like IBM, who obviously build the mainframe, and they like to call it Z systems, but it's still a mainframe. Companies like Broadcom that built tooling for this ecosystem have to start looking at a world where they are no longer an island that is doing something and doing it really well. They have to look at how they fit into a heterogeneous data environment where all of this is feeding this AI beast that is going to drive the business, right?
Yep.
I, as an IT person, I don't want to look at, here's my data on my distributed systems, here's my data that's sitting out on the edge in data lakes or, in other formats. Here's my data that's sitting on a mainframe, and I'm going to manage these differently. I need to look at it kind of universally, and I've got to find a way to look at this landscape as one universal platform, right? What I think IBM is doing, and I think it's smart, and what I think Broadcom is trying to do, which I think is smart, is help IT organizations with that transition from I have 3 teams, I have 4 teams, I have 8 teams that are very siloed, to I have one team that can access any system and any data anywhere without having to without requiring the specialization that's been required for the last 4 decades. That's what I think is going on. And I think when you see, and you kind of saw it with Linux 1 and kind of their introduction and kind of, run your Linux workloads here and your cloud native workloads here. You saw it with that, and you've seen kind of this shift with IBM over the years. I think this is really their attempt to say, and it's bigger than a platform, right? This is their attempt to say, we are part of the modern data infrastructure landscape and learn how to utilize us, effectively as part of that. I'll stop and let you comment because you're an ex-IBMer.
That's right. And I also used to have a fairly substantial product line that competed with Z-Series when I was at Stratus, right? So I'm going to give you 3 quick thoughts. The first quick thought is whether the vendor appreciates that or not, the customers are doing it anyways. One of the things I saw very consistently with the V-Series or the VOS systems at Stratus was that companies recognized the value that it provided to their estate, but they also recognized where it was weaker and they started to build things around it. So we saw solutions move from being a payment processing solution, move from a central set of VOS servers to become a distributed in a private cloud where the transaction processing was still happening on V, but everything else was on distributed. So customers are doing this already. So the vendor should just wise up and start talking to it like the reality. First point of view. Second thing is that I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I actually think AI makes this better, right? I think it's a funny counter argument, but here's my 2 proof points, right? The first one is you have now seen the world move away from slapping 1U pizza boxes and calling that a cloud to now a much more diverse data center where you have GPU-based systems and you have custom silicon and you have ARM and you have Intel and AMD and you have, in the cloud, you have, Graviton and TPUs and everything else. So this kind of notion that, and by the way, network's always done this, right?
Yeah.
The right tool for the right job is still the right thing. And in the case of the mainframe, yes, it's not doing inferencing and model training, but it's doing transaction processing and it's doing mission critical and low latency and all the other things it's been optimized for how many dozens of years. The point is that you can't kind of say, well, it's okay to bring in custom silicon for my AI models, but for this database thing, I'm going to take a performance hit. Or a reliability hit and put it somewhere else. So the AI has kind of helped normalize the heterogeneous hardware infrastructure piece. The second piece of this, which is also a little counterintuitive, is all these AI companies, including IBM, who've come out with migration tools, AI-driven migration tools to get you from point A to point B. You have to remember those tools started with upgrades. They didn't start with migration. They started with get me from Java 6 to Java 18 or whatever it was, right? These migration tools, and if you look at what Amazon just announced with their AWS Transform product, are becoming automated health upgrade tools. So systems are starting to self-heal. Yep. Well, if you have a mainframe and somebody shows up to you and says, hey, I got a great idea. Let's take this migration tool and move you from COBOL to Java and do all this stuff. And by the way, I know it used to cost $20 million, but now we'll do it for $5 million. Yeah. Well, if you wait a couple more months, somebody's going to come up with a tool that's going to basically say you can stay on COBOL forever.
Yep.
With AI. And then all of a sudden you don't have to spend the $5 million. You can keep the right tool for the right job, and you can bring in an automated solution that's going to help you take care of it instead of migrate off it, because that's where these transformation and migration technologies are headed. It's not about point A to point B. It's about autonomous, seamless upgrades, which is, by the way, what you paid for in the cloud. Yep. And now you're going to be able to get it in the data center on whatever hardware you want.
Yep.
That's the thing that's coming down the pike. So I completely think it's great that this is happening. The flip side of it is that IBM is a very loved client, not only by the 2 analysts on this podcast, but by More Insights and Strategy, is IBM, just get this story tight, please.
Yeah, right.
Because it is a good story and it is AI friendly. It just isn't here's a big giant model here's a big giant model that's going to help you write code. This is a different application of AI, and it's actually a very, very, very solid one.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's kind of, sometimes, well, you know this, right? Sometimes you kind of live in a world and you're always telling your stories from your based on your biases and your perspective of the world, right?
Well, there's also in that, just sorry to interrupt you, Matt,
No.
but there's also in that particular sector of the world, let's be honest. I mean, again, I helped run a company that sold this type of technology. The fear of loss is so palpable because these product lines have been declining literally for decades.
Mm-hmm.
So you become so cautious in your product management. You become so cautious in your product marketing. You're so cautious of everything you say because it's either going to be construed as you're killing the product line off or you're doing something here. And all of a sudden it's so fear driven. When you're in a new space like AI, the penalty for screwing up is so low. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because you're a startup or because, you've hitched your wagon onto the hottest trend in the world. So it's pretty hard to screw it up. And if you screw it up, you can fix it a week later. Yeah. Here, if you make a mistake and a $5 million, $10 million, $20 million a year client walks away, people lose their jobs. Right? So this is scary crap. So you don't want to mess with it. I appreciate that from the vendor side. But the flip side of it is that this new technology could actually make you more sticky, not less. This is maybe the first time in 20 years I've been able to say that about this type of technology.
Yeah, and I think it makes you far more sticky. I agree with you. I think it makes you far more sticky as a vendor. And to what you're also saying is to me, it highlights the criticality of your platform. And I love what you talk about with the, pay us $5 million and we can migrate you today. You're absolutely right. A month from now, it's pay us nothing or pay nothing.
Just stay put, baby.
Yeah.
It's switching your mindset. Like the reason I brought up the fear thing is it's switching your mindset from playing defense to playing offense. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's a really big deal for these companies and IBM in particular, because I think IBM, because of the kind of perception, especially on the financial side, the perception of, well, all they're doing is wringing more profit out of a revenue base that isn't growing that high. Well, this is an opportunity, right? For not only for Z but also P, right? They also have the P series, which also has a pretty sticky install base.
That's right.
I mean, they could do a lot with this, and again, it's kind of like it is a little counterintuitive, right? But
I agree.
Your headline is nailed it. I don't think it's going anywhere. The last thing is with all this AI and agentic and natural language stuff, the brain drain fear also goes away.
That's right.
If your developers are just writing vibing code, what does it matter where it compiles to?
That's right.
Mic drop.
I'm totally with you on that. You're absolutely right. And it's funny, because I think when you look across, and I like your kind of like be a little bit more offensive with this, right? I think rather than talk about, look, HPE is out there, Dell is out. It's an HPE world, it's a Dell world, it's a Linux. Fine, it's a distributed world, right? But that distributed world now includes, to what you were saying, it includes in this AI era, so many different architectures, silicon architectures and compute architectures that are required to drive this AI thing, right? And the mainframe is one of those things, one of those disparate architectures or heterogeneous architectures that's required. That is a good thing. And when you remove that barrier of you're an island, now you're part of the overall equation, you're able to drive your that kind of value statement even more and more as a company, I would think. And man, I would love to see IBM be more aggressive with this. And you're right, tighten that story and don't be afraid to lead.
And look, it's like what's really cool about this opportunity is to sit down. People, the knowledge threshold of people with AI, the market education that organizations like us provide, right? Where we kind of say, it's not just the model, or it's not just this, or it's not just about OpenAI's to lose, or whatever you're talking about with AI. We're starting to get people are getting smarter. They're on the knowledge curve right now, and they're learning. And so if you say to somebody, well, why would I want to keep this system, whether it's a Z or whatever, right? You could say, well, this system's job is to provide deterministic actions and context. And by the way, it's some of the most important context in your business.
Yep.
That is powerful in the age of AI. You're not going to throw a model up to do a deterministic action, pay $2 to do something somebody else can do for a penny. That's that's the type of difference we're talking about when you let an LLM do something deterministic in a mainframe, right? And then you look at that from the point of view of, okay, what about context? It's like, well, what's the source of truth? What do? Just point this at SharePoint and let it figure itself out? Or are you going to say this is the truth?
Yep.
Right. So, those are things that, to your point about the integration, this is also the part of the story where companies should get very real about the value they add to the whole AI value, the agentic or AI value chain, whatever you want to call it, because it's not just, a big fat model sitting somewhere. I mean, just to go on a rant, I got asked about, well, why, should CIOs be worried about, Fable and Mythos and all these new supermodels? And my answer was, if you're a CIO, you shouldn't deploy it anyway. It's too expensive, number one. But if you're a CIO, what you need to worry about is the DeepSeek variant to this model that's coming in 6 months. Go harden up your infrastructure, damn it. Right? It's not about, everybody's so convinced about, like, I just got to get on the newest model and do the newest thing and everything else. We're past that point. That was 2 years ago. That was a 2 years ago discussion. Now the discussion is, wait a second. What do I need to build an AI solution? And the answer isn't just model. And the answer is definitely not newest, coolest model.
That's right.
Newest, coolest is something you might need to defend against, but it's not something you want to use in your arsenal right now. It's too bleeding edge and you can't predict it.
That's right. Yep. Hey, listen, we're going to be running up against the clock here.
Yeah.
This is, again, fun discussion. This is one we could talk about forever. What do you get coming up over the next few weeks? Are you in total summer mode where it's, you're sitting down at the beach drinking coffee and margaritas every day, or you got travel coming up?
The short answer is this week I was on a content tear. There's 3 new videos up on 6.5 YouTube channel. There is a new 2-part. I have returned to Forbes after my protest walking away from Forbes last September. Forbes tightened up the rules last year on what analysts could say and do on their site. And I said, I'll push back from the table. But my first 2 pieces on Forbes on user-driven agents, Claude Cowork for the enterprise, went up this week. New field note on FDEs. And I have a new, last year, one of my big things for the summer was a deep dive on agent pricing. And I'm going to do Agent Pricing 2026 edition this year. That should come in August. And then I have another content project that I'm working on that will remain a secret for now.
Okay.
Stay tuned. So it's all, you're right. I'm at home, but I am not sitting by the beach sipping margaritas. I am doing research and content craziness because our clients love that stuff. Oh, and I'm doing a ton of advisory. So, Matt, we spend a ton of time giving this type of advice directly so customers hear it. They don't have to tune into the podcast. We give it to them straight up ourselves. And so,
we do.
I would say that I'm doing a lot more advisory this year than last. You probably are too, right?
Yeah. So you're sitting by the beach, sipping margaritas, writing content, and doing advisory.
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I'm doing. What about you, man? What's your docket look like?
I get a little bit of travel coming up, lots of advisory, and it's content is a constant, is a steady state, it seems, content creation, in lots of research that supports that content creation. And then, the break between spring trade or conference season and fall conference season, collapsing. I'll be at AMD's Advancing AI event week after next. I'll be.
Can you pick up a few of those little $1,500 crazy desktops that can run multi-billion?
I'll stick a couple in my laptop in my bag for you. I got Broadcom VMworld or VMware Explore coming up. I've got AI Infrastructure Summit coming up. There's a bit going on. So it's gonna be
my fall is filling up quickly. I know that. But I do have the benefit of being here in August. I will say though, I will be in the Research Triangle area mid-August. So if anybody is listening, I am putting the word out that if customers want to meet up, I will be in RTP in August for a few days. I'll also be in the DC area around that same time. So doing a little family travel, but I'm also trying to work in some sessions face to face. So
right on, man.
I will be doing that. Yeah.
Hey, so keep an eye out for us, guys. We'll be all over the place, and certainly send us a note if you found something of interest in here that you want to kind of dive deeper on, or argue with us about, or discuss. Maybe not argue, but discuss. We always love to hear back from the folks that are taking this in. So this is going to wrap the fun conversation. We have to leave with what we started, and that is, do you want to give the investment advice again, Jason?
Hey, our advice is not meant to be financial in nature, and we do not take any responsibility for any financial decisions you make based on our insights. This is for the purpose of information and entertainment, not for financial advice. So don't do it.
You sound like a lawyer. Please, folks, like and subscribe. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, follow us on LinkedIn, and certainly give us feedback on what you think. And until next time, we will see y'all later, and enjoy the great weather.